Join us and unwind with a good book. Welcome to Relaxing Reads.
Hi, it's Deb in Halifax.
Hi, it's Simone in Vancouver.
Hey, it's Tanya in Edmonton.
Thank you once again for joining us on our Relaxing Reads podcast. So last time we covered a conversation around Death by a Thousand Cuts from Shashi Bhat. And in this episode, we get to talk to her. So before we do that, Deb, do you want to just brief us on what the book was about?
Well, Death by a Thousand Cuts is a collection of short stories. A writer discovers that her ex has published a novel about their breakup. An immunocompromised woman falls in love only to have her body betray her. After her boyfriend makes an insensitive comment, a college student finds an experimental procedure that promises to turn her brown eyes blue. A Reddit post about a man's habit of grabbing his girlfriend's breast prompts a shocking confession. An unsettling second date leads to the testing of boundaries. And when a woman begins to lose her hair, she embarks on an increasingly nightmarish search for answers. It's in these stories, I believe, that many women will find very familiar moments.
Definitely a lot of great moments in this book. Welcoming Shashi to our podcast. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, hi.
Well, you've certainly nailed it describing the dating scene for so many women, especially for women of color. So we need to know, are these stories based on characters you know or shared experiences amongst your female friends?
I do sometimes write from personal experience, but they're not really true stories. I'm interested in writing like the better story or the story that best gets across the idea. So they're rarely really true to life.
Yeah, they appear to be very true to life.
Oh, thank you. I guess that's good.
Now, Shashi, where did the title come from? Death by a Thousand Cuts. We know it's a popular song by Taylor Swift. It's a form of, I guess, torture in China. So how did that come for you to name this book of short stories with that title?
Yeah, at the time, I didn't know that it was the title of a Taylor Swift song. And then I thought I would just go with it anyway. Originally, I had called the collection We're All in This Alone, but then my publisher had another book they'd published a few years earlier with a similar title. So I went with Death by a Thousand Cuts because I thought it suggested this theme of accumulating small injustices and harm that ultimately become devastating. And I think that theme is present in some way in every story in the book.
Absolutely. Shashi, this is Tanya in Edmonton. One of the chapters that I kind of was sort of, I just wanted to cry was the chapter, The Giantess. And I just thought she was finally seen. And then she gets into an elevator to go do this amazing, introduction. And the elevator stops. And I just thought I was crushed. By that. Oh my goodness. So do you know somebody, that like that, either, a giant of a woman or someone who, was given an amazing opportunity after being invisible for so many years and then getting an opportunity and that just doesn't come to pass?
No. Actually, that story, it came from like a long time ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I had a student who told me his nickname was the library giant because he worked in a library. And the character is not at all based on that student, but I just thought that nickname was so beautiful and sad. Originally, the character was male, and I liked the idea of playing with like the idea of a literal giant working at the library. Once I decided the collection was going to focus on women, I changed the gender of that protagonist, and I thought it opened up a lot of opportunities about a woman who's afraid to take up space and who is, as you said, invisible. And I think like by the end of the story, I see it as kind of a happy ending because I think she embraces her power and her true self at the end.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah. because I was sort of, I'm like, no, this can't be happening. I wanted her to be up there and I wanted her to shine in this light.
Now, Shashi, we read your previous book, The Most Precious Substance on Earth. After that, what kind of made you want to, instead of just like one go at a novel, write a series of short stories?
Yeah, so I was writing the short stories simultaneously with the novel. And my last book, I kind of think of it as a novel in stories too. The short story is just my favorite form. And I was very lucky that my publisher gave me a contract for 2 books. So the second book was this, I just basically gave them like a nebulous 1-paragraph pitch for a short story collection and was just really lucky to get that opportunity.
Amazing. And what's the response been like from readers with these set of, like, what have people, reached out and told you? Because a lot of the stories are very relatable in many ways. Like each of us had obviously a story that, kind of pulled us in, but what's the response been like, or what have you heard?
Yeah, I've been, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but kind of like touched by how people use that word relatable or say that they see themselves in it. And I'm really moved by that.
It definitely, so many of the chapters or the stories I was relating to. I was, we were talking about it before, and I was saying about the woman losing her hair, and I've lost my hair, and it's a traumatic experience for a woman to lose their hair. So when I was reading that story, and the conversation she was having with her doctor, I'm like, yep. Been there, and the woman who, was crippled, and then the medication that she got to fix that made her immune compromised, right? So it was like, oh no, she got this fixed, and all of a sudden, she's compromised in so many other ways. It's just like she traded one for the other, and I'm not, like I just felt there was so much passion in the stories that you were writing, and again, relatable. Like I just, had to finish a chapter, take a break, and then go on to the next one,
Yeah.
Is there any chance that we could see any of these stories on the big screen, or all of them in this type of format?
Oh, I would love that. Not yet, but I feel like some of them do maybe have kind of cinematic potential. Yeah, I do think of them in really visual ways.
Yeah, it could make for a great mini series, 9 episodes, get all of them in. That would definitely be interesting. Yes. When we were talking earlier, Deb had mentioned how interesting it would be for the other side, like men, to read this novel and to realize some of the things they're doing and that we're picking up on. Have you had any male readers say anything to you about the book, or maybe they better understand females after reading a book like this?
Oh, that's interesting. I guess I'm afraid that it might make some people angry, some men angry, because there are so many despicable male characters in my book. Although I think there's at least one exception that I can think of, maybe 2 exceptions. I haven't gotten. Oh, I guess maybe one I can think of where I was surprised at the reaction. He maybe didn't see it as I had intended. And he definitely read it differently from how a woman would read it. So it has been interesting to see people's reactions. So maybe, I haven't heard from a lot of male readers.
Maybe they've just
I think a lot of men should read it.
I do too, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's our breasts are not there to grope, or at any given time. Our bodies aren't there to just always be touching. Just because you're in a relationship, that you get free reign to just, and I thought that was really interesting, because I've experienced that. Simone, I think that you said that you had experienced that in the past, and it's like, no, it's like, I'm not, my body isn't yours all the time. It's a mutual
common experience. Because that, I wrote that story, and then when I go on Reddit, I spend a lot of time in feminist subreddits, and it's so common. Like on a weekly basis, women are posting about similar scenarios in relationships. It's a little uncanny.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, the whole Reddit thing and the am I the whole chapter, like we were saying, that was great because we were saying as we get older, we're a little unfiltered at times. We say things or might, and so we become a little bit in our minds thinking, did I say too much? Did I irritate anyone? So that was definitely an interesting story as well.
Yeah, actually, that's the story. Now I'm remembering that the male reader responded to in a way that surprised me, where to me, the actions of the male character seem far worse than those of the female character. But he seemed to kind of put them on the same level. And that was a new interpretation for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
That's what we're saying. It happens so commonly where it's like, from the perspective as written in the book, it was like, oh, well, I'm just showing affection and I'm doing this. But it's like there's a difference between like hand holding or hugging and, being a little bit affectionate that way as opposed to just like grabbing someone's privates and getting attention. Like, there's a different scenario if you're like you're saying, that kind of sexual touching in a non-sexual setting. That's where it gets kind of like, what's happening here. So I'm glad. I think that's a chapter that people should share with men or partners who are doing that, because that's sometimes just seeing that other perspective. The other one that was interesting was the one around the cooking oil and the scars and the conversation around that, and how the mom was just kind of making more jokes around it, because I come from the South Asian community, and it's one of those things where something happens and everybody just brings it up, even in your household, and it's really awkward because you've kind of experienced it, you lived it, your situation, but the aunties or people won't stop bringing that up. Have you ever experienced anything like that in your childhood, whether it was cooking oil or another situation where people won't stop bringing something up that someone's been affected by? Yeah,
absolutely. And in multiple different contexts too. Like I know growing up, I got a lot of comments on my weight. Or like the inspiration for that story came from a similar accident that my mom had a long time ago. It was not as severe as what happens in the story. And the character in the story is not my mom at all. But she did have an accident while deep frying Indian food. And yeah, there is this the way that people interact with you seems to change in a way that's very persistent sometimes.
Yeah, it's like the elephant in the room that you just keep bringing up, as opposed to being like, we've discussed it, let's move on, let's not make someone so self-conscious, right?
Yeah, and everyone has a solution too, and maybe assumes that you haven't already tried everything.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And when they run out of either ideas or ways to help you, they just keep going back to like, oh, well, if you can have a laugh over it, then, make everybody feel more comfortable. Isn't that a good thing?
Shashi, in the short story, What Can You Live Without? It talks about a woman who goes on dates, and she talks about something called foodie call, where women will go on dates, first dates only, just to get free food. Is that like a real thing?
I guess I don't know how many people actually do this. I just saw an article about that. That was where the idea came from.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason I wrote that story was because I wrote it when I was living in Baltimore as a grad student in 2008, and just really had no money and was constantly thinking about money. And it introduced these questions of what is cheapness versus frugality, and people can be frugal in a kind of aesthetically pleasing way or in an artsy way, but then there comes a point when it reaches a point of desperation, and also what does generosity mean in that context?
Yeah.
I
thought John
friend,
was cheap. I was like reading it going, you are so cheap, man. Anyway.
But it's true. I think it was an article that came out like sometime last year where a woman said she had spent 2 years going on 6 dates a week so she didn't have to buy groceries. And it was like someone admitted to doing this. And if you think about it, like now you're just a swipe away from a free dinner because there's so many people to meet on the internet. Whereas maybe 20 years ago, like meeting someone was different. Like your pool was a lot smaller. So that is definitely interesting. But yeah, that was a funny chapter too, counting coins and throwing coin wrappers at each other. Now, Shashi, was there a specific, out of the short stories in this novel, was there a specific one you really enjoyed writing or you think about often?
Well, that's interesting. I think my favorite one, maybe a few favorites, but definitely Am I the Asshole? Her Ex Writes a Novel.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
I can think of a couple of ones where I was pushing myself craft-wise to write in a way that was like challenging to me or different from other things that I had written.
No, it was amazing. We all enjoyed the book. And we were thinking, like, because we all kind of read it in one go, it's probably one of those that you want to read a story and then take pause. Like, is that kind of ideally how you should read short stories, not kind of all in one go so you have time to digest them and think about them?
I think so. I think that makes sense. I think it's almost like watching Black Mirror, where an episode, at least my intent was that like one single story kind of shakes you in a way or maybe leaves you with a feeling that needs a bit of processing. So I like that idea of taking a little space between them.
And Shashi, what's next for you? What are you kind of working on right now?
Yeah, I am working on a novel manuscript now. It has some similar themes. So it's about a woman who gets a job ghostwriting a memoir for a magician. Yeah, there's more to it, but that's my very short pitch.
I have one more question,
Fantastic.
if I may. Have you had any bad dates that didn't go so well, but now you can look back and at least have a laugh over them?
I've had many dates that didn't go well.
Me too.
And I don't know, there are ones I can laugh at, and there are definitely ones I can mine for story potential. So definitely a benefit there.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
What's Shashi? What is a deal breaker for you?
Oh my gosh, I'm thrown off. Children? I don't want to have children. Is that like too serious?
No,
great.
that is totally legit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like the first story in the book, the story of her not wanting. That's totally great to be able to be vocal and honest about that, as we should. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I certainly think as you get older and you're single, you do get a little bit more like, no, I think you get a better sense of what you want and what you don't want, and you're more vocal about that and not feeling like you shouldn't say that, yeah, this, I couldn't do this, or I don't want that, right? Whereas I think when we're younger, we're like, just love me, like I'll morph into whatever it is you want me to be, And when you get older, you're like, yeah, no, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you're younger and dating, even if you're more successful than that guy you may be out on a date with, you hold back and allow him to kind of talk about himself and all his accomplishments, where we just, okay, because you don't want them to feel intimidated by a woman who might have more on the go than them. And then later in life, it's okay to share those experiences or those, accolades, because you've already been through that. You don't need to shut down, and this is where we're sharing the space.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Shashi, for your time today. We really enjoyed the book, and I think that's just it. I think I need to go back and reread and process because, they're such great stories, and you've done a great job with them.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for your questions too.
Enjoy the rest of your
so
day.
much.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye. Great chatting with her. And of course, thank you to you for being a part of another Relaxing Reads episode.
Thank you for kicking back and relaxing with us. We hope you'll join us again on Relaxing Reads.